Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast. We are continuing with my Japanese movie collection. I forgot to mention special features in the last video. There's really only two DVDs that had some special features here. Which two were they? Oh, Schoolgirl Apocalypse has 30 minutes of extras, it says here. Some interviews, making of videos and that, so they had some. The only other one, I think, they had some extra special features. Let's see here. Was it Shadow of the... No, it wasn't Shadow of the Wraith. Dying here. Dying. Oh, Rubber's Lover, maybe. I think Rubber's Lover had an interview with the director. And some other stuff. So, there's a few in there. Of course, most of the films I covered in the last video were Japanese Region 2 releases, which don't really have much. Alright, let's continue. This is one that was pretty disappointing. I covered it, my Asian horror playlist, I think from 2009, and that is the Shock Labyrinth. Takashi Shimizu. It's freaking... really just dropped the ball with this one. I did not like this one much at all. Good premise. Had the, you could have had like a weird demonic carnival type atmosphere. I think it takes place in like a alternate dimension haunted house or something, but it doesn't really take advantage of that premise and give you some great visuals. And the story's pretty weak, acting pretty weak. So check out my review of 2009 if you're looking for my thoughts on this. All right, next one here is one that I'm in the minority on in terms of loving it as much as I do, and is Ryohei Kitamura's Sky High. I gotta do a full-length review of this one. I have to. I don't know. See, I'm going to Japan in a few weeks for my vacation, and I usually pick a Japanese movie to watch the night before to kind of set me off. Usually it's Azumi or Death Note are the ones that I usually watch, but this time I think it's going to be Sky High. It just has a pretty awesome premise to it, really interesting story. It's about, it creates its own mythology of what happens to you after you get murdered in the afterlife. And you have, like, different choices that you can make. And each of those choices has different consequences. But the film sets up this rule system, almost kind of like Death Note, actually. And, you have a villain who tries to manipulate his way through that system to, like, resurrect a demon, to also resurrect his lost love who died. And then you have the good guy who's trying to stop this dude. And then you have the girl. This girl dies early in the movie, and she's trying to make her choice. So you have all these different moving parts, and it's a really good story. I really enjoyed Sky High. I'll do a full-length review of it. It has kind of an action vibe to it. It's got some horror vibes to it. I really, as I said, I really like that one. Sky High. Oh, and there's actually a lot of special features on this. I can't forget. Director commentary. Ryohei's commentaries are really interesting. And also, a few cast members do the commentary with him. Making a featurette, galleries. This has the theatrical and the extended cut. I actually prefer all of the extended cuts to Ryohei's films, even though some people think his films are too long to begin with. Our next film here, A Blind Buy. It's pretty good. This is The Sleeping Forest. This is like a television special. It's a spin-off of a TV series. This has got my boy Hiroshi Abe. Now this guy, if I had to choose my favorite Japanese actor, it would be that dude right there. He's great. I first became a big fan of his when I saw the Trick television series. So this one's like a murder mystery. It's like a whodunit, Sleeping Forest. And it's, I don't even know if this is available anymore. But it might be out of print. It's decent whodunit film. Nothing great. Maybe some pacing issues, but I enjoyed it. So it's one of those oddball obscurities in my collection. Then we have, of course, another film I have to do a review on separately. A Snake of June, Shinya Tsukamoto. It's kind of a really, really weird erotic thriller. Kind of a stale marriage where the wife is how would you say, seduced by or actually blackmailed and seduced by a stalker who has some pretty interesting motives, actually. Again, this movie is fantastic to look at. It's shot in like a really deep blue monochrome color. You know how some movies, like horror movies nowadays, have that like slightly blue grading to it? Well, this is a little different because it goes really, it really lays on the blue. And because it's shot in rainy season in Japan, it makes sense. But this one, the way it's shot and the way the blue is infused, it's just awesome to look at. You know, it's not just like boring and dreary. It's got some great visuals. I thought this was interesting, despite its weirdness. And, Tsukamoto, a lot of people don't like him. He's probably my favorite Japanese director. But it's understandable, because like all of his movies are weird, to a certain extent. This has some, new release stuff, some bonus behind the scenes and interviews. Not a lot of extras, but the movie, I freaking love it. I'll do a full review later. One of my favorite Naruse films, Sound of the Mountain. This is one of my favorites of his. Now, this one is it's adapted from a novel. The guy who wrote the novel, it says here, is the first Japanese author to be awarded a Nobel Prize for Literature. So that's some serious business. And it's about the daily lives of ordinary people, but in this case, it's set in an ancient seaside town, and it depicts the increasingly close relationship between a childless young woman and her father-in-law, to whom she turns as her own marriage disintegrates. So you got Setsuko Hara in this, who's great in everything, basically. And I really found this to be really interesting stuff, man. Very, very well-made film. If you're a fan of Naruse, you know what to expect. Film transfer, I think, was good. There's a full-length audio commentary by two men that I don't know who they are. So yeah, if you want to start with Naruse, this is actually a pretty good one to start with. Sound of the Mountain. I really liked it. Now, one that I think I need to rewatch. It was a blind buy. I did not like it the first time. The Spear of Longinus. Again, from the director of Azumi and Sky High, Ryohei Kitamura. This one has a great premise. You got like a bunch of people in like a military hospital. Excuse me. And there's like a bunch of, I think they might be vampires or something running around. And some people are trying to survive and kill the vampires and find the Spear of Longinus, which if you look up has like its own separate mythology, but I think the Japanese borrow it and kind of throw it in here for emphasis. I thought it was kind of a dull movie. The action was not properly staged. The actresses were good. I didn't like the actors, though. But there's a bonus movie on this, a 15-minute short called The Messenger, which was originally included in the Jam Films anthology. Excuse me. But that Jam Films anthology is hard to find, but at least you could get The Messenger if you could find the Spear of Longinus. It's a 15-minute short from Ryohei, and it's a pretty interesting supernatural drama that's actually quite better than the Spear of Longinus itself, which is like 40 minutes or something. So, yeah, The Messenger's good, Spear of Longinus isn't. Probably not worth a blind buy. Not even sure if this is available anymore, this DVD. But I might give it a second viewing, because it's Ryohei, Alright. Next one here is a film that's based on a TV series, and it's called Speck Zero. You have Erika Toda there. This one is kind of like a let me look up my little plot synopsis here. So this is directed by Yukihiko Tsutsumi, who did like the 20th Century Boys films, which I'm not a big fan of, but he also did 2LDK. This is involving people with special powers. So it's almost kind of like, it's about a subdivision of the police force who investigate people with special powers. It's almost like a lower grade version of X-Men, but it's a comedy. It's a comedy action series, and this is like a spin-off movie. And there's a few other spin-off movies, and it's a lot of fun. Erika Toda's great in it. She was the uh, the girl who was in the Death Note films, the Death Note girl, I guess you could call her. So yeah, if you're interested in that kind of thing, check out the SPEC TV series and movies if you can. They're pretty cool and quite funny. Again, a horror film here, underrated, baby. This is underrated. St. John's Wort, also known as Otogirisu, I think, or Otogirisu. Check out my Asian horror playlist from this might have been 2001, I think. Again, it's has a lot of video game-esque visuals and references that I really enjoyed. I think the camera angles reminded me of Resident Evil games, which is pretty cool. It's kind of a haunted house, but it's not really a haunted house movie. It morphs into something else. So give it a check. Check it out. The ending is pretty odd, which is people give it a lot of bad press over that, but I think it's pretty interesting to watch. Check out my mini review in my Asian horror playlist. Now, one horror film that I would not really recommend is the Stories of Apparitions Seen in Photos. How about that for a title of a movie? Can't you think of something else? But I'm trying to think who directed. I think Koji Shiraishi might have had a hand in this. This came out, I think, when did this come out? Let me look this up. I covered it in my Asian horror playlist, but I want to direct you to the correct year. That is 2006. So it's kind of a later entry. You know, it's I don't know, it's about like cursed photos and stuff. So it's mediocre. Check out my review from 2006. Does St. John's Wort have any special features? Not really. The next one here's a big one from Sion Sono. I haven't seen this one in years, and there's no excuse. I need to rewatch this. Strange Circus. I actually did not rewatch it when I reviewed 2005 in the Asian horror playlist, which is the year this came out. I should have watched it again, but there's some parts of this movie that are... actually, I'm not going to show you the back. There's a few nipple shots that are pretty... This is a very perverted film. Very nasty, depraved film. But it's also got really interesting story, some fantastic acting and direction to it too. This movie's got some it's got some guts to it. It's got some edge. It says a making of featurette. Yeah, everybody in this is really good actor too. Really good performance. Check this one out if you're into racy horror films that get pretty violent. Check out my review from 2005 if you want more details. Man, I would have expected more special features. I mean, they don't. Alright, next here is one that I just rewatched, and that is Suicide Song. This one I excluded from my Asian horror playlist because it's more of like a drama comedy with some horror in it. Again, it's not really... It almost has the premise of a suicide club, but it's very different. Very different. It doesn't really get that violent at all. It has a pretty interesting dramatic aspect. It's a bit unpredictable. You have Ryuhei Matsuda, I think, is the lead actor in this. Yes. It's pretty interesting. If you want like a very light, horror-ish, like supernatural drama with a little bit of humor mixed in, check out Suicide Song. It's deceptively good. Alright, our next two films here are from the 80s, and they are part of the Sukeban Deka, the Yoyo Girl Cop franchise. Now, there was a TV series that I forgot when it came out. It was about this girl who's almost like a special agent, high school girl, who uses her yo-yo to beat the crap out of bad guys and take things out. And I haven't seen the TV series, but these two movies that came out in the 80s were pretty good. I like the first one better than the second one. And then they came out with another film in 2006 that was actually quite fun, too. So the Yo-Yo Girl Cop franchise is pretty reliable, I think. It's pretty interesting stuff. But again, if you're going to check out one of the ones from the 80s, I would say check the first one out, or the first film out first. And then if you like that one, you could check out the second film. Again, I mean, you got a schoolgirl, you know, just using her yo-yo to beat dudes up, bad guys up. They do these funny poses with their yo-yos. It's pretty entertaining. Need more stuff like this, you know what I mean? Next one is a big one. I haven't seen this one in ages. There's no excuse. Survive Style 5. Oh my goodness. This one is loony. It's a comedy anthology with some good drama in it too. But this anthology doesn't do like one story at a time. It blends the stories together. So you have like different people, like 4 or 5 different storylines that ebb and flow throughout. And you keep jumping between them. And sometimes they intersect. It's phenomenal. This is a hilarious movie. At the beginning, there's a little bit of juvenile humor mixed in at the beginning. But it's a kind of juvenile humor that's charming and hilarious. Tadanobu Asano's story is my favorite. It's about he kills his wife and she won't stay dead. And she comes back for like revenge, kind of, and it's one of the best short stories I've ever seen on film, man. This movie has some hilarious scenes, all-time classic scenes. So check out Survive Style 5 if you have not. Next, of course, we have Swing Girls. This is like the all-region DVD release. I don't think it was ever released in the U.S. I have a separate video of this on my channel. One of my favorite comedies of all time. Very charming, family-friendly film about girls who learn jazz. You know, they're underperformers who get roped into a jazz class. They end up loving it and playing. Some really good tunes in this too. Definitely check out Swing Girls. Check out my review of it as well. Next one is a film I just covered in my Asian horror playlist. That is the Sylvian Experiments. It's a horror film. I think it was the 6th and final film in that J-horror theater film franchise. And it was the weakest of the bunch, I said, but it still had some interesting stuff in it. You know, definitely not the one to start with. I would say start with something like Retribution, or even Reincarnation, or even the first two, you know, Infection or Premonition. Kaiden was good too, from 2007, but not bad. Now, speaking of Asian horror, now we're in 2010 now. We're going to get into 2011 soon when I get back from my trip. And then, you know, it seems like kind of a little bit of a down year, 2011, which we'll see. But then we start ramping up. You get 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2015. I'm really kind of excited to cover those, I'm actually excited to cover the last part of 2010, too, which has all the best movies. 2011, which still has some interesting stuff, and then the rest of the 2010s have some awesome stuff, man. I would even say the industry is hitting on all cylinders during the past small handful of years, and this one, Sion Sono again, Tag. This is again, I think it's the Malaysian release, which is all region. This movie, I love this freaking movie. I just rewatched it recently. Some of the shots in this movie are unbelievable. The premise is outstanding. Some people don't like the twist, but I don't care. I liked it, man. This movie just keeps rolling, and it's a lot of fun. The opening scene of this movie, I think, is better or just as good as the one from Suicide Club. So, yeah, this movie's no joke. They have aerial shots in this that are just freaking awesome. And the soundtrack on this is some of it is from a Japanese, like, ambient band named Mono, which has, like, this really ominous music. I don't have any of their CDs, but I'm thinking of buying it, because it's just, it unnerves you, man. So, Tag, I think, is a 2015 film. I will cover it in a little bit more detail when we get to that year in my playlist. But yes, this movie is, I love it. Love it. I think we'll end there tonight. We shall end there tonight. Making very good progress. I might be able to get this done in just a few more vids. Then after I'm done with this box, we have some slipcases. So we got at least maybe three, maybe 4 parts left, and then we're done with Japan. So as always, I will see you next time.